With mounds of evidence against Brian Goldsby in the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Reagan Tokes, it took only 5 hours for jurors to reach their verdict. And it was unanimous.
We, the jury in this case, being duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
In the end, no one bought Goldsby's claim that someone else killed Reagan. He was convicted on all charges. 1 week later, the penalty phase of the trial began.
If there was ever a case that deserved a death penalty, I felt this was the one.
Before jurors decide between life and death, Goldsby addressed the court for the first time and confessed to the killing.
Today I would like to apologize to the Tokes family for the conduct committed against your daughter. When I first got locked up, I lied about everything. Said it was a TJ. There is no TJ. TJ is not real. I made TJ up because I was trying to wiggle my way out of the crime that I committed.
With Reagan Tokes' parents looking on, he then asked jurors to spare his life, something he had refused to do for Reagan.
The only other thing I have to say is, please have mercy on me.
Did that just turn your stomach?
Yes, it did.
In the end, the jury did show Brian Goldsby mercy.
Life imprisonment without parole.
And Reagan's family erupts in tears. The two jurors who voted against the death penalty told prosecutors they were swayed after hearing about his childhood.
Were you disappointed that he didn't get the death penalty?
I won't say I was disappointed because that's not the kind of people we are. I can tell you I would have voted for it if I was sitting on that jury.
In addition to the life sentence for killing Reagan Tokes, Goldsby also received 66 years for a string of other violent robberies in the weeks prior to her death.
He ended up being charged with each of those robberies and pled guilty to those robberies after the homicide trial.
The same GPS ankle monitor that helped convict him of Reagan's murder also tied him to the attacks.
It placed him at the precise location of these street robberies.
But that was of little consolation to the Tokes family.
It's Reagan that lost the most, obviously, her life. She paid the ultimate price because the state of Ohio failed to properly monitor and control a very violent offender. Wearing a GPS bracelet.
My daughter could still be alive had it been monitored in real time because he should have been back in prison.
The Tokes decided to turn their outrage into action. Toby and Lisa leading the movement to change existing laws in Ohio.
Innocent victims are losing their lives because of the laws as they currently exist.
The Tokes have worked with lawmakers to come up with new legislation called the Reagan Tokes Act.
How familiar were you with the Reagan Tokes story before you met her parents?
Quite familiar.
One of the key components to the legislation allows for indeterminate sentences for violent offenders.
When Brian Goldsby was in prison, he was a terrible inmate. Violation after violation after violation over 6 years.
52 serious infractions in all. If the Reagan Tokes Act passes, prisoners who misbehave while locked up could get their sentence extended up to 1.5 times.
The data and evidence has found that the indefinite sentencing work to actually help rehabilitate these offenders because they are more incentivized to participate in programming and to not face longer prison terms.
Prosecutor Ron O'Brien says that alone could have saved Reagan's life.
He did 6 years on the attempted rape and robbery. That sentence would have been 6 to 9 under the proposal that passed the Senate, and very likely, given his misconduct in prison, he wouldn't have been released in November of 16.
Another key piece of the legislation involves more effective monitoring of ex-convicts wearing required GPS ankle monitors.
I have to admit, I always thought an ankle monitor, that means that's an extra layer of protection for us in the public.
One would think.
The Reagan Tokes Act would require real-time monitoring.
This is 2018. The technology exists.
The bill also requires reducing caseloads for parole officers, something that would likely cost taxpayers more money.
Do you think that money is going to be an issue?
I don't think you can put a price on public safety.
But politics, right?
This is about doing the right thing and protecting the people. If it costs money, we need to allocate the money to do it.
Do you have community support for this?
Overwhelming.
Absolutely.
That's because everyone in Ohio has been moved by Reagan Tokes' story, especially the investigators who worked so hard to bring her killer to justice.
How would you describe Reagan Tokes?
She was just a beautiful child. Yep.
And this is truly one of those I'm sorry. This case is very personal to you in this department.
Yes, it is. Yep.
On what was supposed to be Reagan's graduation day, more tears.
And the degree Bachelor of Arts upon Reagan Delaney Tokes.
It's always hard for a child to watch their parents struggle.
Most definitely. Parents should never have to bury their child, so I think it's just strange knowing that fact that it's not my sister and I that are going to be here to take care of my parents after, it's just me.
How it's affected your family, because you do have another daughter, very close in age.
How do you not find the strength and the will and the energy to help her continue forward and pursue all the opportunities that life still has in store for her? And I would be hypocritical in my faith if I chose the alternative, which is to curl up in fear.
It's been a terrible loss. We loved Reagan with all our heart, and we miss her. It's very tough.
The Ohio Senate voted unanimously to pass one of the two bills named after Reagan. It will now be voted on in the State House of Representatives. If passed, the new law would dramatically change how violent felons are sentenced and how they're released. As for the GPS monitoring changes Reagan's family is fighting for, that issue is still being debated. I'm Chris Hansen. If you like this story, make sure you tune in every day to Crime Watch Daily. You can find where the show airs in your city at crimewatchdaily.com. Watch it live or record it on your DVR and watch it at night. And to all those criminals out there, remember, we are watching.